The Being Counted a Boss podcast is powered by Expert. Expert is the AI data and workflow management kit for bookkeepers and accountants, keeping your data clean and boosting productivity. Automate manual bookkeeping checks and streamline your entire workflow. Expert is your trusted sidekick, tirelessly checking the data for errors and helping you manage workflow easily. Process, visibility, and data quality control in one AI-driven system. If you're interested in trying Expert for free, visit our website at www.expert.io, where you can start a 2-week free trial.
Hello and welcome to this guest episode of the Being Counted a Boss podcast. Today we're joined by a good friend of mine, Mr. Luke Farren. How are you, mate?
Very well, thank you very much indeed, sir. Very well.
And it is just me and James and you today. So
we're holding the fort.
We've not got much diversity on this in this conversation.
No, we haven't, have we? We've not ticking that box.
Yeah, Amy's letting us down on that side of things. But how have you been, mate? You've been well? Keeping busy?
Really well. We're recording on a Friday, which is exciting. Nearly the weekend. It's been a long week.
We always record on a Friday. We find that everyone's happier on a Friday, right?
Everyone's happier on a Friday, I think. So yeah, you definitely wouldn't want to be recording on a Monday morning, that's for sure. But,
exactly that.
Yeah, all good.
So Luke, do you want to give the audience a bit of introduction to who you are, what you do, what you're doing at the Modern firm?
Yeah, can do. I guess in a nutshell, for those that haven't heard me speak before, I have worked in the UK accounting sector for about 15 or so years across a number of different practices during that time, some large, some small. Was part of the founding team at a boutique advisory practice that got acquired by one of the larger consolidators, Cooper Parry, in 2023, and spent a few years there trying to figure out how to integrate businesses that we were acquiring into the Cooper Parry business. Cut a very long story short, left earlier this year now to go back to working for myself and launched the Modern firm in only February. It feels like a lifetime ago, but February this year. So only been in the market now for 6 or 7 months, but during that time, I've done some really cool things working with some really great firms. Again, some large ones, some smaller ones, helping to overcome challenges surrounding technology enablement, process optimization, and really helping practices kind of navigate that kind of, operational sort of landscape that is changing rapidly, not namely through, the lens of technology. But in a nutshell, that's me.
You've got that intro down pat now, mate, haven't you?
I think I have.
It doesn't need the cue cards anymore, does he?
Doesn't need the cue cards anymore. The auto cue behind me doesn't need to be spinning anymore. So no, all good.
That's cool. Okay, so I'll go with the first question then. Obviously, you obviously a brief background on yourself, but why did you want to go back for working for yourself, and what do you want to achieve by working for yourself?
I mean, isn't that what every rational, like mid 30-year-old kind of with a young family, sort of like big mortgage and stuff does? Sack off a well-paid, stable corporate career to try and take a punt on this thing that is TMF. And I don't know, I guess if I reflect, I've never been particularly good at working for other people. I've always loved working with people, but I think one of the issues, and it isn't a criticism of the life that I left, but when you're part of a much bigger kind of corporate monopoly, your ability to kind of innovate and be entrepreneurial and stuff is naturally stifled by the fact that you're working as part of a bigger organization. And so for me, I wanted to get back to being able to do more of that. And so naturally launching your own business allows you to do that. I guess the autonomy and stuff that comes with that as well. But I guess there's a broader point for me, like, there's a kind of, naturally I need to make sure that what we're doing is earning money to pay that mortgage that I just referenced. But for me, the reality is I want to help as many accountancy firms as I can in this space. I think the industry is at this juncture at the moment where kind of we need as many people as possible to kind of come together to help firms navigate this next chapter. There's so much disruption out there at the moment, and so many firms that I think need and want help and support. And so, the more that I can do to try and help that, the better, really. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be a similar story to a lot of the people listening to this as well, right? People starting out in the accounting practices have probably done a similar thing to you, right? They've worked at a bigger practice and thought, well, I want to be able to influence the decisions. I want to be able to do what I want to do and run the practice how I want to run it. So, hey, I'm going to go and set up on my own.
I think so, yeah. I think that, I don't know, it feels like a bit of a change in landscape on that front as well, doesn't it? I think historically, kind of the world of, entrepreneurship and people launching their own businesses, although that's been a thing for as long as time stood still. But the reality is it used to be kind of more common that people wanted to go into practice, kind of qualify, go down that kind of partner track and climb to the top. And I think that whole model's been disrupted. I mean, private equity's played a huge part in that from my perspective. But I think that ultimately that kind of old traditional way of climbing that career pole in an accountancy practice is changed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. You're gone.
No, I was gonna say, obviously, with that, obviously, like you say, we're all going through it. So I did it myself. But if someone's going to go and work for themselves, what shift or trend do you think they potentially could be overlooking when they do start?
In terms of where would you kind of start on that journey if you were looking?
Yeah, definitely.
I think what most people that want to carve out and go and work for themselves or launch their own practice have normally got is quite a good, I guess, A, technical background, and B, network to kind of give them comfort that they've got the ability to go out and to win new work and to be able to kind of, I guess, start earning money. I think for most people, that side of things either comes naturally or happens quite quickly after deciding to make that jump. But, I guess very much back to kind of what we do. I think without having a plan in place and having the right set of processes and technologies in place to be able to sort of manage that portfolio of opportunity that you've got to help you kind of deliver work and kind of scale it, without having those things in place, then ultimately you're gonna fall flat on your face. I think there's tons of firms that look at all of that stuff, or people, I should say, that look at that stuff as a bit of an afterthought. I think once they've kind of started generating revenue and sort of delivering work, it's only at that point that they start thinking, well, how are we actually going to kind of house all that client data, and how are we going to sort of wrap standard process around it that allows us to start hiring people to kind of scale the business, etc. I just think my point generally is that shouldn't be an afterthought. You should be doing that stuff arguably ahead of actually making that jump. You need to have a blueprint, you need to have a plan in place. There's definitely never an early enough time to do that.
I think the barrier to entry's dropped a little bit as well, right? Like before, maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe a bit more than that, you would have had to buy a CCH or something like that. And that's 20 grand, 25 grand to run your firm on. And there's quite a lot of outlay there initially. Whereas now it's like, hey, look, you get a zero subscription. You can use Zero Practice Manager, which comes for free. And you've got other tech solutions which scale with you, essentially. It's much easier for people to go out and set up on their own now, right?
100%. And I think that that's kind of a challenge and an opportunity in its own right, I think, because like that opportunity that's out there now in terms of, or choice, I should say, in terms of technology, does make it much easier to be able to kind of get that stack off the ground. As you say, versus historically there only being a few very sort of large or clunky enterprise options available to you. But arguably that's where so many people kind of trip over, because the sea of choice out there is just sort of so vast that I think a lot of people don't know where to start in terms of what to look for. That whole kind of like shiny object syndrome that I talk about regularly, in terms of people just chasing what they think is going to be good for them when actually it's possibly more unhelpful than it is helpful. So yeah, I kind of see it as a really big opportunity for people, but also kind of equally a challenge as well.
If you were gonna look at someone that was looking to start up a firm on their own, and they had they obviously got some tech in mind, but what would be the first steps that you'd advise them to take, or where do you see that people make those mistakes initially when they're first setting up?
Well, I think you have to kind of ask yourself the questions. What's going to work best for you in your practice? Like, do you have plans just to run that as a small sort of sole practitioner indefinitely, or do you have sort of either medium or longer term plans to grow that into a more well established practice with a sort of team of people supporting you, through to what type of clients are you going to be working with, what type of work are you going to be delivering? Is it more advisory led kind of like work, or is it like more core compliance that you're planning on delivering? I think there are key questions that you have to answer before then maybe mapping that back to what technology and I guess in turn what processes then need to wrap around the outside of that. I think it wouldn't be wise sort of as a first step to start trying to chase software that's going to streamline or make pretty all of your management accounting, for example, if you don't have a kind of like well-structured practice management tool in place that can ultimately sort of act as that sort of data repository to feed that work. And I think kind of doing it in a way that's chronological is really important. And yeah, for me, it kind of all all of this stuff, any practice really, big or small, spawns out from practice management. I think it's as simple as that. I think that's where the core data kind of needs to.
So you just talked about when you set up in February and stuff, but would you say the firms that you're dealing with, do you feel whether they're startup or established that they're probably taken on too much tech in one go to try and implement it?
1,000%. Yeah. I definitely won't start name dropping, but I think all the firms that we've worked with recently have got a common problem when it comes to having too much technology in place across too many areas of their business. And that, I think, can span everything from reporting through to payments, through to even things like onboarding and stuff, having multiple systems in place to try and bring clients into the practice. I think most firms have got problems when it comes to having too much technology. And I think, as I affectionately described myself earlier this week online, I'm not going to anymore position myself as a tech advisor. It's more about being an anti-tech advisor. And I think, you need to have a core tech stack that works for your business. You need to have, technology fundamentally is important, but you don't need tons of it. You need to have the right tech with the right process that wrap around the outside of it.
Yeah, I think we come from a different angle with the vendor, from the vendor perspective, right? We get a lot of people that come to us looking to find out what we do, but don't actually have a problem to solve. And I think we've chatted about this quite a few times, Luke. It's like you need to look internally before you look externally.
100%.
Like, look at the business that you're running and where are the gaps that you need to fill, and then potentially you could fill those with tech. But also quite often it's a bit of process shift and maybe of shifting a few people around and putting the right people in the right jobs.
Yeah. That's a good point. Really good point.
I think that, Expert are a prime example of that, though. And this isn't anything I've not said to you previously. I'm a huge advocate of the product. I think it's a great tool. Like I again, I've joked previously, I'm not aligned to you guys via way of like referrals or commission or anything like that. But I always find myself gravitating towards Expert as a solution that can help many practices. But you are an example of a tool that's kind of that sort of shiny, newish thing that lots of people like the look of, but they don't always validate whether or not it's actually going to work for them. And although I stand behind Expert as a product, it's not going to be right for everyone. And that's probably what you mean and what you see, right? You have people kind of that come to you, they like the look and feel of it, but they haven't quantified or validated if it will actually be helpful for their business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And that's where we see a lot of businesses fail, right? And it is, or not fail the business, but with implementation, because there's not a real, there probably is a need there, but there's things that are higher up the chain that need to be fixed before you then come through and implement a solution like ours.
A lot of it comes from, admittedly, even we've done it. We've got it. We go to use it, and then it's me that's the driver, and if I haven't got time to drive it, it stops. And that comes. How many times you've been to our office twice now? Well, haven't you, to sort of help with the team to understand, to take it on, and therefore then it's not me. And again, we're changing team members again at the moment. So again, we know that Expert is not fully utilised, and therefore, naturally you start to question whether it's the right thing to keep using. Of course, it is for us, but other practices, like you say, are very guilty, I think, of, especially what's on LinkedIn. There's a lot of noise. Would you say, Luke, where people say, this is my tech stack, this is what I do, and everyone's like, right, I've got to do the same?
I completely agree. I talk about this a lot. What I think is like, funny in a way about this entire industry is that you turn up to a conference like DAS or Accountex, or you hang out online on LinkedIn with the right algorithm for 5 minutes, and you assume that the entire industry is doing this stuff really, really well, because you're right, everyone preaches about how great and wonderful they are. For me, again, as I regularly describe, that's like the tip of the iceberg. There's a huge underbelly there in this market. Like I would say, I don't know what, maybe 80%, 85% of firms across this country that still haven't cracked it. But that kind of like almost FOMO and fear that everyone at the top is doing it really well prevents them from actually asking for the help that they need. And there's a real barrier there that needs to be broken down still. And I think it's really important for people to realize that, don't take what you see online and what you hear at conferences too seriously, because it's noise. It's noise.
I also think a lot of those people that are online, on stage, if you actually take a look under the hood, like they're probably not as far forward as you are. Some of them definitely are, right? Some of them really do practice what they preach, and their firm is really tech forward and tech focused, but a lot aren't still, and they've still got a long way to go. So
but they're tech forward and tech focused, aren't they? Because they've got the processes right.
Yeah. But as I say, that's another narrative that I really think needs to start changing. That I'm quite passionate about peddling. Again, yeah, technology is really important. It's fundamentally going to change how this industry looks and feels over the coming months and years. There's no disputing that. But it's not just about tech. We need to kind of like flip the narrative a bit and talk more about the process that underpins that, the people that are using the technology. Again, there's this narrative in the market that's continuing to sort of like gain pace around like, tech and AI is going to replace people and all that garbage. And I fundamentally don't believe that either. I think that good people are going to be required in whatever new capacity it looks like to be able to drive the tooling. And I think we need to kind of, equip people with the insights and the training and whatever else that they need to be able to make a success of that.
Yeah, and that comes back to the point I made earlier, is like making sure you've got the right people in the right jobs, and you're giving those people some level of responsibility with this tech. Because ultimately, if I was at a conference the other week with a lot of managing partners and CEOs, and one of the things that I said was actually they need to get out of the way.
Yes.
Those people aren't the people that are going to be using that technology. They're the ones that need to move aside and let their team influence that decision a little bit more, because they're the ones that are going to be either taking their job in 5 to 10 years time when they become a partner or they set up on their own or whatever, but also they're going to be the ones using it.
I couldn't agree more. Again, I'm biting my tongue a bit here in terms of obviously the name drop, but there are practices that I've been exposed to recently who still need and want that kind of whole final decision around the technology stack and the kind of solution bit being signed off by people that aren't going to be sort of on the tools using it. And I just think it's such an unhelpful way to look at it. Like you need to kind of cascade that responsibility into the team that are actually doing it. Like, period.
Yeah.
I think I hit the point before, didn't I? Where I said, I think it was not the recent accountants year before, Will, wasn't it? I was up and I literally saw you the day before talking about stuff, and then my team would come up the second day, and I literally just said to them, "You need to go to see Will, expert, a few other apron, a few other things." I said, "Go and have a look, see what you feel about it." And it sent them off. Just said, "Go find out yourself what you think about it, because you guys are the ones who are going to be using it." The disco light's gone off.
Everyone's wondering why we're laughing now.
Yeah, although I'm looking at my lighting and it still feels okay. So for
you're fine.
Myself,
natural beauty, of course.
For anyone that's not watching this, we had a preamble before this that Luke's in an office with a light sensor and he sat still for too long and the light has gone off in his office, and he was worried that we wouldn't be able to see his radiant smile.
The alternative would just start waving, trying to turn it on, but I'd look really stupid if I do that. Although
I don't know. You're right. Otherwise, it's just up and down, like you've just got some sort of problem with your chair, or
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, as I was saying. So I think it's important that I set the team off. They went and found ideas, and actually they come back and we implemented the tech from their ideas, and it was a combined decision rather than necessarily just me, because I know I can also be the pain in the backside.
Yeah. How can firms help themselves then, Luke? Like, is there a way that if it's a slightly larger practice and maybe have got some team members, like what's the best way for that person running that practice to kind of find out where the gaps are or find out what technology they need?
I mean, I think that obviously talking about this stuff's a great starting point, but ultimately sort of developing a sort of, a process or a cadence that kind of allows the right people within the right teams, again, dependent on how big the practice is. If they've got multiple service lines with multiple kind of like levels of seniority, like figure out kind of who it is that you need in the room, make sure that you've got that cadence of sort of meetings and conversations to surface it. I mean, personally, and again, slightly biased because we've built a whole business model around this, but I think applying sort of a proper framework and a proper sort of workshop sort of approach to it in terms of being able to sort of like surface those insights and give people the sort of space to vent and sort of share their pain points and their problems is a really important way to do it. But you need to do something. I guess it's absolutely not helpful to and again, arguably there isn't a right or wrong answer to it, but you need to do something. There isn't any help just sitting there in your ivory tower and stuff, kind of dictating what tech and what software needs to be used without getting input from the team that's sitting underneath you.
Yeah, nice. And that feedback loop's really important, right? Making sure that you're continually speaking to your team about what are the problems that you're facing at the moment. Where can we help? I think that's the same in every business, right? Not just an accounting practice. I'm sure you would do that with your team, Luke, right? I do that with my team here. It's like where can we help? What can we do to help?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, again, just like democratizing, like having conversation, I think is really important. Like making sure that you're getting feedback. I think, again, dependent on the size of your practice, but arguably even for smaller firms, having internal like change champions that actually kind of like talk to the product and talk to the solutions really helpful. Again, I think that if you've got again multiple levels of sort of seniority or big hierarchies in organizations, having it dictated sort of top down isn't as helpful as having kind of people on the ground, as it were, that are actually promoting and speaking to the tooling and the technology. So yeah, that kind of change champion role, I think, is something we promote and encourage when we're going through sort of big programs of change. And, as an external party coming into an organization doing that sort of stuff, for us, we need that kind of like intel and sort of insight that you can't gain unless you've got people that are actually, on the tools and working.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's a knowledge bomb there, mate. I like that.
Yeah, I was saying,
That's
to follow up with that,
always,
Yeah,
always,
like
always aiming to give.
these things. We've been on loads of panels together, and we've spoken together quite a lot. And when you go into work mode, it's very like you're very good at you're very good at getting your point across and what you need to say. I like it, man.
I was worried for a second there you were going to start talking about me in an out of work context, which okay, I got a bit sweaty there in terms of what stories you were going to try and surf.
Yeah.
No, we won't.
Documentary.
Yeah, it's all right. James Gosling's not here. It's fine. Don't worry.
He's on my sofa.
Yeah.
Anyway, swiftly moving on.
Yes.
So we're kind of coming up to time. How can people get in touch with you, Luke? What sort of things can you do for smaller practices, bigger practices, and how can people get in touch with the Modern Firm?
Yeah, look, I'm that loud, annoying guy on LinkedIn at the moment that I was moaning about earlier. That is,
you're making the noise.
Yeah, I'm making the noise, unfortunately, but I think it's semi-helpful noise and sometimes quite amusing. So I don't know, but again, I'm biased. I'll let other people be the judge of that. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's cool. You can pop me an email as well. This feels like one of those sort of like telesales pitches here. But
we'll put some links down below.
Yeah, put some links down below. But yeah, like, I'm always happy to talk to people. Maybe a bit of a downfall of mine in a way. I love opening up my diary to talk to people and sort of seeing what their problems are and what's going on. Look, we've worked with everything from super small sole practitioners to a couple of really great top 50 firms over the last 6 months and a bunch in between as well. Some of them we've been mutually exposed to and stuff. And I think the work that we're doing across the industry at the moment seems to be landing well. I think there are tons of practices out there that could benefit from help and support when it comes to tech enablement, process optimization, training, etc. So yeah, always open to a conversation if anyone fancies it.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much for coming on. We end these podcasts with a bit of a quick fire round around this or that. I feel like we should do it with James and Amy at some point as well, just to get some.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
But it's essentially just quick fire questions, this or that, just to get to know you a bit more as a person. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, go on then.
Definitely. They're pretty easy, mate. Don't worry. No stress.
No stress.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee, 100%.
Netflix or YouTube?
I'm actually pretty bad at watching like things. I've got a bit of like an attention sort of like deficit disorder. But if I had to choose, Netflix.
Nice. Pizza or curry?
Curry.
Well, you didn't talk about your burger pizza because I didn't say pizza or burger.
You know what? I was actually thinking of a time where I've put curry on top of a pizza before that's been left over, but that was a really bad hangover.
Speak to James Sundin about that. Up where he lives, you can actually buy a curry pizza.
That's intense. Yeah, I might have to.
Remote work or office work?
Yeah, office work. I like it. We're doing more of that at the moment, and nice. Office.
Tidy desk or organized chaos?
No, tidy desk, 100%. Like my OCD could not cope with mess.
Nice, I like that. And then we'll try and do some around sort of tech implementation. Okay. Process or tech?
Well, I think based on everything I've said, like both really Both important, but I think process needs to trump technology.
Okay. Data-driven or gut instinct?
It depends in what context. A lot of the time, gut instinct. However, yeah, gut instinct.
Nice. Winter or summer?
Don't like dark mornings. Don't like hot weather when I'm sleeping.
Autumn. Yeah.
Autumn. Yeah, I like autumn.
Autumn or spring?
Yeah, autumn or spring. Can we reframe it? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then finally, save money or spend money?
Yeah, spend money. I could be dead tomorrow.
Yeah, we had this conversation before we jumped on, didn't we?
Yes.
Talking about health and fitness. Well, appreciate it, Luke. Thanks very much for jumping on and giving some of your knowledge. If anyone does want to get in touch with Luke at the Modern Firm, we'll put some links down below this podcast on whatever platform that you're listening on. If you are listening and you did enjoy it, please do leave us a review. Please do subscribe. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us.
No
But again, thanks, Luke. Thanks for jumping on. Cheers, James, as always.
Thank you. Cheers, James. Cheers, Will. Thank you.
We'll chat soon.
See you guys later.
See you later.
Thanks so much for listening to the Bean Counter to Boss podcast. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you could leave us a review, like, subscribe, that would be incredible, as it really does help to get the word out there for our little podcast. Hopefully see you again in a couple of weeks' time for the next episode.